everybody. It's your guy Bendu. So before I get into the story, I just want to say, if you guys hear me, you guys hear me sounding like Daffy Duck at any point, it's because I just came from the dentist office to get my filling replaced. So I'm still numbed up over here. So if I sound like Daffy Duck, don't laugh at me too hard. But as I was waiting in the dentist office today, I was scrolling through Robbie Yeager's page. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, and came across his a thread that he retweeted about the whole Colonial pipeline situation that's going on with the hack and everything. Obviously, like I know, I covered a story today. I dropped a video today. I covered it Saturday, but since I messed up the live stream, I was like, fuck it, I'll just drop it today. But talking about how the media basically just covered this hack, that happened with the Colonial pipeline, while simultaneously still showing a blackout to the whole leak, which is literally the pipeline leak, which is the largest leak in American history. 1.2 million gallons leaked into the environment and in the area where people live in North Carolina, but nobody's talking about this shit. I believe it's like Huntsville, something like that. But yeah, so what I found interesting about this story, though, is now they're starting to practice soft Russiagate, is what I'm calling it, because as you're about to see now, I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you guys on Morning Joe and all across MSNBC and NBC. Well, you'll see. I'm about to show you right now. I'm going to go ahead and play the video and let you guys tell you guys what I think about it, but give you the real story as well. So.
A ransomware attack that shut down the country's largest gasoline pipeline was most likely the work of Russians. Two sources tell NBC News a new Russian criminal group known as Darkside is the leading suspect in the attack.
I am entropy. I am death. I am Darkside. That doesn't sound like a nefarious fake movie evil name at all. That doesn't sound like a name some fucking nerd in the CIA headquarters made up to say, oh, let's blame the Russians. Let's call it a Russian group. Darkside. This motherfucker must have just saw the fucking Snyder Cut, bro. By the way, the Snyder Cut was fucking lit. I should do a review on it on my film channel. But yeah, off rip, I'm calling bullshit on this name personally.
Attack against Colonial Pipeline. The company was forced to pause operations that transport nearly half of the fuel supply of the entire East Coast. NBC News sources say early indications suggest the attack did not look like the work of the Kremlin and was rather a criminal plan.
So Biden already came out and said that there's no evidence saying that Russia was involved with this. But you see how they plaster the name Russian criminal group? Like they don't discern until you actually read the article or watch the video. And let's be real, most Americans don't read past headlines. Honestly, let's be fucking frank about this. Unless you're like niggas like me or people like y'all, don't read past the headline. I read past the headlines now because I realized that I was being fed propaganda about a lot of these countries, whether it's China, Russia, Venezuela, Cuba, whatever fucking country it is. So I make sure I read past the fucking headlines, which is common sense anyway. But like I said, you know how Americans is, bro. Americans don't like to read, bro. So I just like that joke from the Boondocks when they were doing the exorcism on Tom, and one of the weaknesses of black people was to make them read. Well, that's the weakness for all fucking Americans, especially now, like with TikTok and everything. Nobody likes to read shit. So
Darkside is known for its extortion plots. Colonial Pipeline has not said what the hackers demanded. Gasoline futures are up nearly one.
You already know my theory is I think this is either some hacktivist group or this is somebody who knows something about the pipeline spill and are basically doing ransom for releasing information about the spill. So I think this is in reference to the spill, which is why I think the media is not fucking talking about it. But
1.5% this morning. Heating oil up nearly 1.3%.
Ed Luce, this is really, this is where the future of warfare may be going. You have these asymmetrical attacks that any country can launch if they've invested enough in getting an army of hackers. They don't have to have 50, 60 years of military buildup like the United States. Just do something like this and shut the East Coast down of this country or of Britain or, well, you just fill in the blank.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like the pandemic, and that our vulnerability to
No, it's a little bit like what the United States and Israel just did to the Iranian nuclear facility, where they're not making nuclear weapons. They're using nuclear power for normal shit that most countries use it for. It's kind of like that, right, Morning Joe? It's kind of like that. I'm trying my best British accent to make fun of this fucking pencil pusher in front of us.
Cyber attacks, particularly of critical infrastructure, to our critical infrastructure, has been flagged for years and years and years, like pandemics have been. So we know what we're vulnerable to. And in this case, you know, it's an extraordinary vulnerability. There's 45% of American refined gas goes through this one pipeline, the Colonial pipeline. I think the fact that there's an infrastructure bill coming up for consideration before Congress, which is returning from recess.
Yeah, $3 trillion over a 10-year, $3 trillion infrastructure plan. I think I said it was like 300 billion or millions, whatever. I think billion. Man, y'all niggas not bad at math. $300 billion dollars a year to settle this country shit, dog shit, man.
Means that this attack might be in a curious way quite well timed to focus minds on.
Never let a good crisis go to waste is basically what he's saying. But they're going to let the crisis go to waste because they're only giving $3 trillion over 10 years. So even if you're on this Biden bandwagon and shit like that, it's common sense. $3 trillion is not enough for infrastructure. And the fact that we're arguing over infrastructure, when infrastructure pays itself off over time, is fucking ridiculous.
Just how vulnerable our
But notice how they haven't talked about the fucking spill, right? Yeah.
critical infrastructure is to ransomware attacks from private sector criminal groups, but also more geopolitically motivated attacks from countries like Russia. So
there we have it. Soft Russiagating.
It's a timely reminder, let's say, of what we need to get done.
So there you have it. There's MSNBC doing what MSNBC does best, which is fucking Russiagating. But so this is what Robbie Yeager said. Hold up. All right, so yeah, with Colonial, so this is from 17 hours ago. With Colonial Pipeline, I think what we're seeing is really how politicians treat oil companies in a microcosm. They mobilize every available government agency to defend them, but are nowhere to be found while they're otherwise constantly destroying the planet. Because of the hack, Colonial has the full weight of the Biden administration in their corner, and media will go to bat for them and how important they are. So if they reveal the North Carolina spill was the largest ever, it'll be swept under the rug as it has for decades. And he also said, Colonial Pipeline is going to use this cyber attack to insulate themselves from any real criticism or repercussions from the fallout of their historic spill in North Carolina, the largest in American history, which was caused by their own incompetence and negligence. What's worse, it'll probably work. And it is working because now they're using Russiagate. You know, they're going back to their tried and true strategy. This is what the Democrats do whenever whenever anything falls on the party or falls on the corrupt, decrepit system that they love and defend so much, they just blame Russia. And Republicans like to blame China. So Republicans are going to say China did this hack, and Democrats are going to be saying Russians did this hack. So what I want to get to now is, I'm gonna go ahead and read through the article for you guys, and then I'll come back to Robbie's his Twitter thread, and I'll read through that thread as well. So this is the article that he posted on his timeline, and this is Biden declares. Hang on, there we go. Biden declares emergency waiver while Colonial Pipeline is down. Full screen, baby. All right, so Biden declares emergency waiver while Colonial Pipeline is down. The move lets fuel that's backed up in Texas and elsewhere be more quickly transported by maritime ships while pipeline remains offline. Colonial has not said when its pipeline will be back online. And she, this is written by Kim Zetter, and she'll explain why they haven't revealed yet, or she'll mention it, but she doesn't go into depth into it because she sounds like she's a shit lip, honestly. But the United States government issued an emergency waiver in response to the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack on Sunday. The move allows backed up inventories of oil and fuel that are sitting in tanks and refineries in Texas and other parts of the country to be transported to New York more quickly via tanker ships while the pipeline is offline by easing restrictions on drivers. Because there's like a whole thing where there's a lack of drivers, so that's probably what they did, this to basically put it on ships and everything like that. So the emergency move, initially reported by the BBC, waives the Jones Act, which requires that goods shipped between U.S. ports be carried on U.S. built and owned ships. That is, vessels that are built, owned, operated, and owned and operated by U.S. citizens or permanent residents. This would allow a greater amount of ships to be employed for the transportation of the oil. And she provided an update. Story has been updated to correct error from BBC, which reported initially that Biden had announced a state of emergency, which he did not, in response to the ransomware infection, and also misreported that the waiver applied to trucks. It applies to maritime vehicles. So separately, Bloomberg provided new information about the ransomware incident. The attacker stole nearly 100 gigabytes of data from Colonial Pipeline before locking some of its computers and servers and demanding a ransom. The attackers have threatened to publish the data online if Colonial doesn't pay the ransom. So it may not be a hacktivist group like my theory was. I'm still clinging on to that theory. Like I said, I mean, I'm probably more than likely fucking wrong, but I guarantee you, even though it may not be a hacktivist group, or it may not be like, you know, somebody trying to expose the spill itself, I think it's somebody that knows about the spill, specifically targeted the data about that spill to take that, and is now holding it over their fucking heads. And that's why I think the media is running cover for them about Russiagate right now. But continuing, a source who works for a large midstream oil company that feeds into Colonial's pipeline told Zero Day that the control systems for his company's tank farms connect directly to control systems at Colonial Pipeline, and that as soon as they learned about the ransomware incident on Saturday, they disconnected those systems to prevent the ransomware from traveling to their systems from Colonial's networks. He told Zero Day that his company has had to scramble to figure out what to do with the oil and fuel they have sitting in tanks, and that they have received no word from Colonial about when the pipeline will be back online. So Colonial hasn't said anything. I saw another report like literally like an hour ago, maybe half an hour ago, that said that they're looking sometime this week, maybe Tuesday or something like that, but they haven't told anybody really yet. They don't have a set time. We had a big batch scheduled today to go to Colonial, he told Zero Day. Instead, they have to figure out other storage options for the fuel or reduce capacity in the refineries feeding the tanks. They also have to keep the material in the tanks moving with mixers, or it will stratify and affect the product's quality, he said. His company was told that Colonial's main pipelines would not be fixed in 1 to 2 days, but won't take 6 weeks. He's not sure why Colonial will provide such a wide-ranging time period, but said it's very concerning for our interests. So they're basically saying, yeah, it could be 1 or 2 days, or it could be 6 weeks. You just don't fucking know yet. It could be over a month. We don't know. Kind of like how they didn't know the magnitude of their fucking spill when they actually did. And I'm calling bullshit on this because I think they do know, and he explains why he thinks they're purposely trying to prolong this. We got to find storage for refineries, and we might run out of storage. It takes too long. Then refineries will have to cut back. The problem escalates, he said. Colonial Pipeline has said that only its corporate IT network was infected with the ransomware, but that it decided to close down the operational network and the pipelines that this network controls out of an abundance of caution. Because of this. The source who works for the midstream oil company told Zero Day that one reason Colonial might still be keeping the pipelines offline, in addition to needing to add safety measures to it, which is bullshit, is because something they need for the pipeline is ransomed. And also, he says he thinks this could be automated ticketing system for billing customers, which is on the corporate IT network that was hit with the ransomware. If that system is locked, Colonial can't invoice customers automatically, he said. Colonial's operational network controls the flow of oil product from the pipeline to distributors, then passes information to the ticketing system located on the IT network about how much each distributor received, so the ticketing system can invoice them. If that system is locked and the pipeline is still flowing, Colonial would have to manually collect information about how much fuel is flowing to each customer, then manually process invoices. If Colonial didn't already have a plan for doing this manually, it may keep the pipelines down until it can determine an efficient way to invoice customers this way, or until it can restore the automated ticketing system. So basically, they're going to hold up all the oil, and it's not like, you know, obviously this hack is, you know, affecting their systems, but they can still do it like the way he, you know, was just explained, but they're not going to do it because they didn't put a system in place. So basically they're left assed out But instead of, taking the loss like you're supposed to in capitalism, or like you're supposed to in a free market system, like that's on you, bro. This is what happens when you allow monopolies as well. But that's kind of like that's on you, bro. They're like, oh nah, fuck that. We'd rather slowly, affect the rest of the Eastern Coast because we can't get our fucking money. Because we didn't spend the money and time to set up a system in case something like this happened. Kind of like they didn't set up the time and system for, a 1.2 million gallon spill. Kind of like that. So that is exactly why they're doing that, because they can't get paid. In the meantime, gas and jet fuel supplies could start to be affected by the shutdown. So that, like I said, they're willing to allow basically the oil infrastructure, the oil natural gas infrastructure to basically crumble until they get paid. This is late stage capitalism, folks. This is a perfect example of it. And what is the media doing right now? They're soft Russiagating, and they're probably going to go full swing by the end of this. They're going to find some way to tie this to solar winds probably, and blah blah blah, and the rest of the story. In the meantime, gas and jet fuel supplies could start to be affected by the shutdown. Oil market analyst Gaurav Sharma told the BBC that shipping fuel tankers won't be sufficient to handle all of the backup fuel sitting in tank farms and refineries. Unless they sort it out by Tuesday, they're in big trouble, he said. The first areas to be impacted would be Atlanta and Tennessee. Then the domino effect goes up to New York. Colonial is the largest supplier of fuel between Texas and New York. Its pipelines supply nearly half of the gas, diesel, and jet fuel that is consumed on the eastern seaboard. According to the company, supplies have not yet dwindled in storage there, but if the shutdown continues well into next week, experts say supplies could start to dip during a time when cities are reopening from the pandemic and people are gearing up for spring and summer travel by vehicle and planes. So of fucking course, there you have it. This is late stage capitalism fucking over people's lives. But oh yeah, let me go back to that Robbie Yeager tweet. So yeah, so Robbie had this to say again, and I'm gonna try to get him on the show because he's been doing excellent reporting. He's really been the only one who's been staying on top of this. So I'm definitely going to try to get him on the show. But he says, so Colonial Pipeline will keep their systems shut down indefinitely, potentially causing a massive fuel shortage. And why? Because they may not get paid. Who's holding who for ransom exactly? That's perfect. A perfect line of questioning. And this is the what is it? The thread from the author of the article that I just read, and I think they're called 0 Day or something like that. I'm going to link the article in the description below so you guys can read. I'm gonna link everything I use in this video, like I know I do. So, but hold up, she even said, yeah, source, and this is the tweet that stuck out to me. Source also tells me one reason Colonial might have taken operational network down, aside from being cautious, it's not because they're trying to be cautious. It's because they're corrupt motherfuckers, and they're being bent over the barrel, and instead of taking the loss, they're going to bend the American people over the barrel and fuck us over as we're coming out of the pandemic. It's because they may not be able to invoice customers who receive fuel if their IT network is locked with ransomware, preventing them from being paid for fuel. Man, yo, I swear to God, capitalism is literally like that scene from Friday where Smokey was talking to Craig. He said, y'all never got two things that match. Y'all got ham, no burger, peanut butter, no jelly. Bro. That's literally what capitalism is. So we had so much oil when we went into the pandemic that literally they were rushing to find places to store it. They were literally paying people to store all this fucking oil, blah, blah, blah. Now that we're coming back out of the pandemic, they don't have enough oil. This is America, bro. This is fucking America. So yeah, so there you have it, folks. This is late stage capitalism in its finest. Professor Wolf talks about this a lot. Mark Blythe, whatever economists you want to talk about, even some right wing economists talk about this shit as well. And this is our systems failing us again. So now the infrastructure problems that we're having is moving right on over to the East Coast now. It was in the Southwest, the Southeast and Southwest. Well, Southwest, I think Texas is considered Southwest. So yeah, Southwest now is moving right on over to the Eastern Seaboard. It's probably going to be motherfuckers out in Wawa arguing over, oh, it's the last amount of gas in there. Oh my God, man, this is insane, dog. This is late stage capitalism. This is why we should be making a move to green energy, but we have to work on slowing down consumption to even think about moving to green energy for renewable energy to be plausible, which nobody's still nobody's talking about. AOC is still pushing her fucking bullshit bill. But to get back on topic, so they're soft Russiagating here, and they're using it to cover up for the fact that these motherfuckers spilled 1.2 million gallons of oil into the environment and into like a place where people live. So this is definitely going to affect people's living situations, their drinking water, whatever it is. And nobody's talking about this. They don't even really know the extent. Like 1.2 million is just the number they can get to now. They don't really know the full extent of how much they spilled. So like I said, I want to try to get Robbie Yeager on here. Like I'm going to message him, guys. If you could hit him up on Twitter and tell him I'm looking to have him on the show so we can talk about this. I don't know if anybody's had him on yet, but I would love to have him on to talk about this more, because I think this story just accents how fucked we are right now as a society with this pandemic and everything. So, but the fact that they're Russiagating, man, they're literally Russiagating to deflect from the failure of the system. This is exactly what Aaron Matei talks about with Russiagate. This is exactly what Jimmy Dore talks about. And it's like, I saw Jimmy cover it, and I'm pretty sure if Graham knows, he'll cover it. And I saw Robbie tweet out to Katie Halper about this, but you're not going to see TYT talk about this. I don't know if Majority Report has been talking about this. And, I'm not just trying to say, oh, you guys aren't left enough because you're not talking about this, but this shit needs to be brought up because this is a failure of a magnet, of a large scale, on a large level of the system. So niggas need to be talking about this. It's no like, oh, we missed it. Nah, nigga, you need to be talking about this. So with that being said, I'm going to close the video out here, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, comment, and emphasis on everything now, because y'all know YouTube is stifling channels like ours. The CEO already admitted to doing that shit, and I'll say this every time I say this, but I'm going to get to that story. I'm probably going to drop it Wednesday. So Wednesday, I'm probably going to do that. Liz covering Ro Khanna coming to the aid of Elizabeth Warren. I wanted to finally cover that Mike Baker China video when he was on Rogan, and there might be another video I might do. I might have an interview too that I'm dropping, or not an interview, but a podcast with Matt for the Tox Talk. So look out for that. But y'all know YouTube stifling us, so y'all know how it is. If you're watching on Odyssey, same thing, same deal. Odyssey don't be stifling creators there though. So just hit that flame emoji, blase blah, all that. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Peace.